So the question is, how many people are using the washroom? We got lots of different words for this: washroom and loo, and so, which comes from we have set up a system for counting the number of people going into the washroom at Heathrow Airport, and so we'll talk about how we did that. First, who is Eurotech? Eurotech designs and delivers at the low end computer boards. Our customers put those computer boards in products that they're delivering. We put them in systems that our customers may use to collect data and send data to the back end. And in doing that, for 15 years, we've been collecting data and sending it to the cloud long before it was the cloud, long before it was M2M, long before it was IoT. And we realized that we could help our customers get to market if we could help them get the data off of the device and back to the back end. Some of Eurotech's customers are names that you've seen before. I think kind of the purpose of this slide and the previous is we've got a diverse set of customers who are doing lots of different things. So we're not just one vertical. We've got some verticals that we do well in: transportation, counting people. And we'll talk about that. But most important, what we're really good at is getting our customers to market so that they can make money. So thinking about the restroom or the washroom in a busy place like this or an airport, there are lots of questions you might ask. Well, how many people are using the restroom? How often should we service the restroom? Are we adequately directing people to the right restrooms, right? Maybe they're skipping a restroom to go to another one because they know the signs are directing them or not directing them to the nearby one. And how can we measure that? How can we measure the number of people going in the restroom? So what if we could measure and know how many men were going into the men's room and how many women are going into the women's room, and what if we could get that to a back end where we could do something interesting with it? And what kind of things interesting could we do with that data? And we'll look at how we've taken counting of people going into the restroom and help keep them clean by notifying the service staff that the restroom, that a lot of people have been in and therefore probably they should go check it. Or maybe the alternative. Not many people have been in. We don't need to go service it. So we're collecting that data. We've got that data, so we can look back. We can say last Christmas season, how many people were coming into Heathrow Airport and using the restrooms, or the last IT Expo, how many people were coming in and using the restrooms? And we can then coordinate and plan ahead and prepare for what's coming. What's the pattern of use? So during the day, are more people using it in the morning and more in the afternoon, or in an airport where all the planes come in and people transfer between and then fly out, and then there's a lull? I'm just going to. How many people do we need on staff to keep them clean? If it's a quiet time at the airport, maybe we don't need so many people. But on the other hand, if it's a busy time or a busy day, it's a holiday weekend, or maybe Miami, we've got the IT Expo and hundreds of people are coming in for the IT Expo. Maybe we need to plan the Miami airport and have more people on staff. And then finally, real-time alerts. How can we notify the service staff in real time that an action needs to be taken, like go to service the restroom? And base that on the number of people going in and out of the restrooms and the amount of time that's elapsed. so we can keep track of how often they're serviced. And finally, allow the people coming into the restroom to request the service. Let us know that that the restroom needs service. So how did we do this? We started by counting the number of people. To do that, we have a product that initially we called it a passenger counter. We developed this to count the number of people getting on and off a train, so passengers. And of course, then we realized, well, they don't have to be getting on and off a train. Maybe they could be going in and out of a door someplace else. So now it's people, because it could be on a building now. And what this has is stereo cameras and infrared lighting. And so it's one of the most accurate people counters in the industry, 97% or better accurate. And so it does a really good job of detecting whether it's a person or a stroller or a person or a bag, and knowing that it's getting the right number of people. So for the restroom example, we'll put this as the doors they're coming in. So while we are using a camera, we're taking a picture in a place where people are just walking. Then, let's see. Oh, sorry. I'll put that there where you can see it better. And then we have a set of gateways. And gateways, I get real technical. I'm kind of geeky, so I get real technical. A gateway is a thing that has a lot of goes-ins and goes-outs. So we can collect data from lots of different things, and we can send data out in lots of different ways. That wasn't too techy, was it? I have a picture of a different one. We actually have several, but the ones I've got here at the show are busy actually doing something in our booth. So you're welcome to come by and see that later. This one is very similar, and what it does is it hooks up to the people counter using power over Ethernet. The people counter is keeping data, and this goes out and goes to the people counter and says how many people have come into the restroom. And so at a typical airport, we could have one of these getting the counts from the men's room and the women's room at the same time, and sending that data to the cloud. Which gets us to the next slide. And so in getting data to the cloud, we've set up a cloud infrastructure that allows our customers to very easily. Carl, you're looking at your watch. Am I? Okay, just let me know when I'm not. Normally I send you emails, but I don't have that right now. So we've set up an infrastructure to allow our customers to easily take data from a device where they're collecting data, whether it's their hardware or our hardware, and send data to the cloud, and we will catch it. And what we have in the cloud is a system that is zero config and schemaless, which means that the software engineer who's writing code down at the edge to collect data is the one who's determining how we store the data and what it looks like in the cloud. Which means that when marketing or sales comes along and says, that's great, you got the number of people walking into the restroom, but now we want to know how many tall people there were versus short people. I'm not suggesting our people counter can do that, but the software engineer comes down, he writes a little code and says, okay, now send the number of tall people versus short people. And the system automatically readjusts and handles that. So we don't need to get a database administrator involved to make a change, and we just need to write applications that are flexible and we have an API-based way for applications to get data, and so it separates the data storage from the application. And one of the features of our cloud-based solution is a rules engine. So as the data comes in, we can make decisions about that data and do something interesting with it. Like send a text message or an email to the service people and say, hey, we've seen that so many people have come in. And because so many people have come in, you ought to go check the restrooms. So in an end-to-end, what it looks like is something like this. We've got a men's room and a ladies' room. That data goes up to a gateway. The gateway collects the data and sends the data on. And it sends the data on to the cloud, where we've got a rule that's looking, and it says, okay, the restroom is at some location in Terminal 2 of the airport, and we've had, I don't know, over 200 people go in the men's room, and somebody ought to go check it out. So that goes up. A rules engine looks at the data, and we'll send out an email or a text message. But if we had that data, what could we do? By looking at that data, we can say, well, this restroom, how often is this used in January or during some period of the month, and do some predictive analysis and determine when we should have more staff on, when we should be prepared. And last, have a button that is connected to the gateway, which allows a user to request somebody come service. Let us know the restrooms need serviced. So what are the benefits? We've got happy passengers, happy attendees at the IT Expo because the restrooms are clean. We've optimized how we manage the airport, how we manage the convention center by having the right number of people on staff and keeping it clean. I may have hit all those in one sentence, but and so what does it look like if we graph the data through the day? And so this is real data coming in from Heathrow, and we see these spikes and lulls, right? So as lots of planes come in to do their connections, we see a spike in usage and then it drops off. A spike in usage and it drops off. And so that allows us to understand how the restrooms are used. And we may see one restroom that looks like this, and we may see another restroom that doesn't, indicating that some areas of the airport are used more than other areas. And what can we do to help passengers understand maybe there's a better restroom to use? Am I looking at? I guess this is data over three weeks. Over 1,000 visits a day. That actually seems low to me. I suspect they get used a lot more. But again, by looking at the data, and we can understand usage. We can start to do some analysis and predict how the restrooms are used and how we can maybe do it better. And we can look at raw data. We can. Let's see. What do we have? So we can set this up. So we can set up a rule in the cloud to. In this case, we've said every 200 visits, send out a notification. So every 200 people who walk in the door, and we're keeping track of people going in and going out. So we're directional. Every 200 people, send out a message and have the service team come take a look at it. We can. The rule can be flexible. It can be adjustable. So we can change that number. Maybe we start out and it's every 200, but we find when the service people show up, they're pretty clean. Or maybe we find that they're pretty bad. Maybe we need to go down, maybe 100. So the rules can be adjusted to satisfy need. If we start looking at data, now we can analyze it. We can compare week to week. So we've got several different weeks across several different restrooms, and we can see that there's different usage patterns. And as we gather the data and learn from the data, we can modify the way we think about the data. But, the real key is getting the data. The first step is to have the data available. So what's next? So the first step is to collect the data, and I go out and talk to lots of potential customers, and how do you plan on using the data? What data do you want to collect? And what I hear from them a lot is we just need to get started, right? They don't know what they're going to do with it. Right? It's going to change. Once we start seeing the data, then we start saying, wow, if I only had that data. And once I see the data, maybe I change the way I think about analyzing the data. And so, we can optimize what we do and how we do how we notify service and how we do service based on this data as it comes in. And so Carl will open it up to those planted questions now.
Those planted questions. Do we have a plant?
Seeds.
Okay, no planted questions. First of all, a round of applause, please. So, I was thinking about some of the things that I would want to do. There's, one of the interesting things about thresholding is you're getting a good aggregate data, but, people have a tendency to use the first John versus so you can in effect learn how your behavior is.
So that's interesting because when they first got these slides, actually it suggested that we were counting people as they went into the toilets.
Right.
Which was a bad use of a word that meant restroom.
Right.
Right. And most of us don't want a camera overhead as we're using the restroom and going in, right? But what if we tied into those automatic flushings, right? And then we can predict which toilet. Because I don't know if you've used the men's room in here, but there's one door that seems to be just kind of sealed shut, but there's nobody in it.
Right.
It looks like it. I bet nobody's going into it.
Right. There's. Right.
And so we could use that information to go, hey, maybe we need to fix that door so people use this one instead of the other two and have people waiting.
Yeah, the other sad thought that came to my mind was the correlation between what the restaurant menu was and the use of the toilet, right? Which I didn't think that was necessarily a positive thing. Yeah, no, oh, that must have been Mexican night. Yeah, no, I didn't think it was a good idea. Anyway, no, never mind. So anyway, give him a round of applause again. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.